Welcome to the Ignition Point podcast. My name is Sean Finnegan.
Debbie Hart.
And my good friend
Ryan Boswell
is in the house. Honored to have Ryan. When I first met Ryan, he was working with Silicon Slopes. And you ever meet someone, you're like, I got to figure out how I can work with this person in some way, because whoever gets to work with Ryan is going to make a lot of money. That was my thought. And it turns out like another 50 people had the same thought. And I think, how many job offers did you have in like a year?
Oh man,
like 30.
Honestly, I was averaging like 2 to 3 a week.
Yeah, because
So,
he's such a phenom.
Thanks.
He's a great operator, and he's an influencer, and he's a content creator. He's like the perfect Madden kind of character. If you were to build a customized Madden player,
Wow.
that would be Ryan.
That is Ryan. That's
So-
not how you normally intro him, though.
Yeah. I do have another intro for Ryan. He's also a cold plunge influencer.
Here we go.
So his claim to fame is 80 million people have seen his nipples on
Sean
TikTok.
coined
There
that
it
for me,
is.
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
Sean coined that
He
for
did?
So
me.
80
I
million
thought it
people
was
have
you.
seen it.
He's got this intro down. We've done it enough times.
So if you got to watch his TikTok, because he did a TikTok with me once, and it was like watching Mozart with a nice, an
No, it's
incredible
true.
piece of music. Like the way he does it is the verbiage on the screen, and the way he has all these little hidden pieces in it. There's like Easter eggs in his best posts. So he is totally brilliant. So fortunately, the law of attraction happened for me, and we were able to partner in a
Okay.
business that we're
making
going to
you a
talk
lot of
about.
money now.
Yes, he does.
Because of your
Which it all
cold plunge
happened.
videos,
There we
right?
go.
Yeah, it happened.
Which actually made me want a cold plunge,
There you
too.
go.
Exactly.
That was hard.
So it's an absolute honor to have you.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
So
Debbie, what
let's
question do you
hear
have
that
for Ryan?
ignition point then. How did that all start for you? Those cold plunges, those ice baths. Yeah, what led you to do that? And then how did it get you to where you are today?
Going back, like to my original ignition point, I was 13 years old. Okay.
13.
I wanted a longboard, and I didn't have the money for a longboard, and so I was like, I'm gonna get resourceful and figure out how I can get one for free. I sat down on a Saturday morning. I threw on the TV in my parents' bedroom. I got our little HP computer, and I built a list of 300 longboard companies. Like I got to like pages 8 and 9 on Google search of like companies that people didn't even know exist. So I built this list of 300 companies. I cold emailed 300 companies and said, if you send me a longboard, I'll make you a YouTube video. And a couple weeks later, I had a longboard show up at my house.
Really?
So that was the first time I ever did like a
Wow, that's
sponsored
fun.
post. The company was BC Longboards, I believe out of Oklahoma. I don't think they're operating anymore. But I still have the longboard today. It's hanging up in my garage as a fun reminder. But that was
Quickly,
my,
like if you're a young person watching this and you want something, don't ask your parents.
go get it.
Go get it.
My parents wanted me to send the longboard back. They're like, you didn't pay for
What?
this.
Yeah,
And
it's totally
it was like
different.
I mean, it was the Wild
They were
West,
excited
right?
for
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Well, I mean, this was a $200 longboard.
Yeah.
And my parents always taught me, they're like, you work for everything that you get
Right.
in life, right?
Yeah.
But when this showed up at my house, like this was when I first learned that the universal law of equivalent exchange, right? Like if, as long as you put really good stuff out into the world, you'll get something of equal to or greater value in return. So that was my original ignition point.
Great.
Over the next 5 years, you know, I'd gotten up to like 15 sponsorships for longboard companies.
As
or
a
different-
young teenager.
Yeah, as a young teenager.
Wow.
So from 13 to 16 really was when I was mainly
So if your
into it.
parents were resistant to that, how did you manage that? Because they would be in charge of whether you could or couldn't, right?
Well, and it was the Wild West, right? Like
Okay.
growing up with social media, this was 12 years ago because I'm 25 now. So that would have been 2011. And I had never made a YouTube video before. Like,
Right.
I was just like, I'm going to hop in the driver's seat and we're going to figure this out.
Wow.
So that's exactly what we did. And, you know, worked with 15 companies. And then that initially, you know, helped me learn how to work with brands, communicate. There wasn't a course on this. There wasn't couldn't hop on YouTube and learn this. This was, again, the Wild West. So I just kind of figured it out as we went, learning how to make cold email scripts and reaching out to brands. And the next thing I knew, I was working with brands, creating UGC content for them. And then really how that, you know, growing up in Chicago, I graduated high school in 2016, moved out here to Utah, and similar situation. I saw something that I wanted. And I was here at UVU just down the street here in Orem, Utah. And I really wanted to work in the athletics department. So I went up to the athletics department and said, hey, I want to come work for you guys. And I don't need you to pay me. 2 days later, I was working as the athletics photographer, taking pictures of all the sports teams. And then that led into working on the social media team for UVU. You know, later that year, I had an opportunity presented to me through a connection to take over and work on the social media team for the band The Killers. So all of a sudden I went from like managing my own brand on social media to working with The Killers, who had 18 million followers at the time across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I noticed that every single step in my life and career, again, this was all over 5 years right there, just from 13 to 18. And I still had a whole nother 5 years ahead of me that I hadn't even tapped into yet. So that was the original ignition point for me, was seeing something that I wanted, creating that luck, going after it, and then creating opportunities is kind of a snowball.
We're
effect
seeing a
down the
theme
road.
here. Like, I think, especially younger generation watching this that want to be a creator like you, but are kind of waiting for the right moment or don't feel like they can contribute because they don't have X, Y, Z. You just went out and did it. I mean,
At
every
13.
stage, you just went out and did it.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, like, I talk to a lot of people about this. I think every day, you know, on the topic of ignition point, I think every day has the opportunity to be an ignition point. Like, I have a goal every single day to send a shoot your shot message. So at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen? If I'll send a message. One of my favorite things is if I see someone that makes a post or someone that I really admire, I'll look for a way to get connected to them. So for example, Spencer with Zook, right? The headache pump.
Yeah.
I saw this brand that had been doing really well. I got on LinkedIn, found the founder, saw that Sean was connected to him, asked Sean to connect me over to him, and now me and Spencer have become really good friends
Power
over the last couple
relationships.
months, right? Power
Amen.
relationships. So
Yeah.
every day has the opportunity to be an ignition point if you understand that you can create luck and create opportunity for yourself by putting yourself out there and just wanting things to happen.
Instead of waiting for it to happen,
Exactly.
you go make it happen.
Exactly.
Tell us how you got into cold plunge.
So about 2 years ago, in August of 2021, I got diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, and I'm sure there was one or two more. But my whole life made sense, just right there. My childhood, everything through high school, how I'd feel in social situations, and I'm a very outgoing, loud person. And then when I got this diagnosis, specifically with ADHD, really everything I just came to terms with everything in my life. And I realized that I wanted to start making more of this superpower that I just uncovered in my life. So I started documenting on TikTok different things that helped me be productive. I was talking about, making a routine out of going to the gym, meditation, trying all of these different remedies. And then I saw someone post a video on TikTok that was like, cold water is really good for mental health. And so I was like, all right, let's try it out. So ADHD inside of me, I go to the farm supply store, buy a horse trough, come home. My wife is like, what did you buy now? Right? She's like, all right, here's another hyperfixation of Ryan's. I fill it up, I let the water freeze overnight, and I film my first TikTok video of me doing an ice bath. And it's hilarious to go back. Like, I have a deviated septum, so I breathe really weird. People are making comments like, oh, he can smell the color purple, like it's just like hilarious stuff. But that first ice bath changed my life. One, because I've now completely tapered off of Adderall since I started doing ice baths. So it's been phenomenal for my ADHD, my personal mental well-being and physical well-being. But that video also did 7.8 million views overnight. Like that very first video.
Your first one.
My first ice bath video.
So what did I say about
Just
80 million
over 7
people?
million.
80 million people.
Right. So, yes, 80 million people. This winter we'll probably get to 160, maybe.
Yeah.
But, over the next 6 months, built a really strong community around cold therapy. But that was how I originally got into it. It was a search and discovery of trying different things that would help me live with ADHD. And then wanting to share that with other people, leading down this road of talking about
You should have gotten a
therapy.
percentage, too, of the trough company. Whoever did the
Yeah,
trough
I
company,
know,
because
right? They should have
he
sent you
actually
one.
sold out every trough, like in most
the Western
states.
US.
Yeah, the Western
Yeah.
US, you couldn't find troughs anywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
of you.
because I got a message about a year after I'd started doing ice baths from one of the people that was working at the farm supply store. They sent me this message like, hey, I don't even know if you remember, but I was there when you got your horse trough. I remember seeing you there in the store. Like most of the Western United States right now is sold out of horse troughs because of your TikTok videos. People will come in, they'll show us your video, say, I want a horse trough. I'm like, man, I should start a horse trough company.
Yeah,
like,
you
what was I
should've.
doing? But better things came down the road.
Right. You started a cold plunge studio company, right?
Yes.
So how did the two of you get connected and start that idea?
So about a year ago, I joined an organization here in Utah called Silicon Slopes that works with all the tech and business startups here in the area. And as a byproduct of working there, I met a guy that introduced me to a guy that introduced me to a guy that introduced me to Sean. And so through those different connections, built a relationship with Sean, and it was just like immediate. And then like within a week, I think we had sent probably 30 intros back and forth. Do you remember
right.
those first
Wow.
2 months? Like we were just like intros back and forth. Like, yo,
Tons
you
of
gotta meet
value up
Sean.
front.
Wow, that's
Sean
so
saying
fun.
you gotta
Yeah.
meet Ryan.
Yeah.
And so we just got connected, and then Sean learned that that I'd been doing ice baths, and he had just for the last year or so had been working on this new venture, Cold Plunge Studios. So Sean had started that with Devin Johnson, Cody Harvey, Jesse Gamber, Sean, and Phil Williams, my partners out in Indianapolis, and they just needed an operator. So he connected me over to Devin, and then Devin was like, "Hey, come work with us on this. Let's find a way to partner up on this." And back to what Sean was saying was just like it's all about finding the right people that can come in and make a difference in your organization. So
It's the who, not how.
it's the Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. So
Yep.
from the moment I met Sean, I remember sitting you down and I was just like, Sean, I don't know how we're going to do this. I want to find a way to work with you.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. I was like, here's a phenom. Let's figure out one spot. But I actually didn't think it was the right fit because I was losing money in the business every month.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that's not a good business that you want to go just take over. I'm losing $6,000 or $7,000 a month. Are you sure you want to? I mean, this also included in packing up his 2 dogs, his pregnant wife, and then heading out to Indiana. And I was like, ooh, this might not work. And he had this strong passion and belief that I was like, this actually may work if he gets in place and does it.
Well, and the funny thing was, again, another ignition point moment was when I flew out and met Devin Johnson for the first time. We had one 20-minute phone call and one 9-minute phone call. And on that 9-minute phone call, Devin was like, hey, come out to Indiana. I'll fly you out for the Indy 500. Let's chat and just kind of get to know each other. So I fly out there, and literally we went to dinner one night, and then the next day we were driving in his car. And this was one of the largest ignition point moments in my career. We had been talking for 5 minutes. Again, we had known each other for maybe less than 2 hours total in life. And he's like, Ryan, I can tell you're not fulfilling your true potential and you're not doing everything that you want to be doing. Let's find a way to change that. And so the connection of having met Sean 6 weeks earlier, having this moment where I'm in Indianapolis, seeing people building companies and involved in really cool projects, and then someone to take a chance on me like this with Devin, who, it was a really cool moment for me where then this spark went off of me and I felt this sense of urgency, and I'm like, you know what, all these people that I'm now surrounded with are right. I need to be doing something more. I want to be doing what I want to be doing. So life is too short. Let's just go make it happen. So I didn't hesitate. And we packed up my 7-week-old baby and my wife, and 8 weeks later we were on a U-Haul driving out to Indiana.
So the end of the story, this is 4 months ago, so this is right hot off the press.
Oh yeah, this is fresh.
So he's taken over their operation. First thing, he fixes the sales process, fixes our marketing, starts doing these TikToks with local influencers and blows it up, doesn't spend a dime on marketing. And all of a sudden I went from like maybe 150 people walking through the store to how many in the last 30 days?
We just did 675 sessions last month.
Last month, 675 sessions.
Wow.
So it was 157 in July,
Yeah.
220 in August, 457 in September, 465 in October, and then 675 last month in November.
He's the who.
Yeah, he is.
Get the right who.
Yeah.
Because a lot of entrepreneurs ask the wrong question, like, how do I do this? And I was asking that wrong question myself. And bringing you on, you became that who like totally transformed the business in 3 months.
Well, and a lot of it too was like what I would attribute majority of that success to is the ability of our team to be so malleable, like be able to adapt. We only have 3 employees that work in the store, right?
Yeah.
And so for our staff to be able to adapt and make change swiftly, talking with customers and getting that raw, authentic feedback, what we noticed was someone would come in for a session and the next day they'd bring their friend. And then the next day that friend would bring a friend. And then the next day that friend would bring another friend. So it's just this ripple effect. But I attribute 100% of that to my team being able to be malleable and form these new ways to really build and scale this business, while then from a larger perspective being able to really grow what we're trying to do at Cold Plunge. So
if people want to follow the journey,
Yeah.
where's the best place to engage and watch you jump in these crazy troughs?
Best place would be on TikTok at It's Ryan Boswell.
Yeah, we're going to get it to over 100 million.
There we
Yeah.
go. Thank you.
Sounds good, man. It's an
Awesome.
honor.
Yeah.
Thanks,
for
Ryan.
coming.
You bet. This was a blast. Thank you.
If any of you watching today have any doubts that your current CPA is not helping you take 100% advantage of the deductions you deserve and helping you stay compliant with the IRS, then don't hesitate to get involved with TaxHive today. You won't be disappointed.